What's up, you guys? Chet Guthrie, the Dream Poet here, coming to you all with another fun-filled vlog here in my home state of Tennessee. And today, guys, we are at a very, very special place. And that, my friends, is none other than the Sequoyah Birthplace Museum. You see, the Sequoyah Birthplace Museum has been around since the 70s. You see, everything that is behind me and where we're standing, this is historic Tuskegee. Now, Tuskegee was one of the villages that ran along the Little Tennessee River. Now, in a previous vlog, I talked about how in the 1970s, the state of Tennessee put in a dam, the Fort Loudon Dam, which caused all the historic ancestral lands of the eastern band of the Cherokee Nation and the other tribes and bands as well, causing them to lose all of their ancestral lands. As a form of reparation, this land was donated, and there is something very special about this land because in this village, a very special Cherokee man was born. His American name was George Guest. His Cherokee name, which the rest of the world would come to know, was Sequoyah. Now, Sequoyah in Cherokee means little pig's foot. Some historians and other Cherokee within the community believe that Sequoyah had a clubbed foot. Some might beg to differ, but that is what Sequoyah came to be known as. Now, Sequoyah was around during the early days of American colonization of this area of the Cherokee Overhill. While he was working along the United States, he wondered, could my people have our own writing system? Around this time, the Cherokee were writing in English or French or German. You see, at this time, the Cherokee language did not have a written alphabet, a written syllabary. No, it was all vocal. It was all spoken. So Sequoyah, he set out to change that. And while for some societies that take hundreds upon thousands of years to perfect a writing system, Sequoyah managed to do it in a matter of about 5 years. You see, this would be later known as the talking leaf. That would be referred to as the Cherokee, or that the Cherokee would refer to this new system as. So, without further ado, you guys, we're gonna go inside and we are going to take a glimpse of this historical figure that changed the history of an entire community. Obviously, you guys, you can see Christmas lights. It is still that time of the year. Honestly, I should probably be doing more Christmas-related vlogs, but I'm not complaining. But you guys, this is perhaps one of the most well-known portraits of Sequoyah. And now, honestly, I love this display. Now, one of the reasons how, if you notice, the Cherokee syllabary has some letters that are very similar to English, well, there is a good reason for that. By the way, it's a really beautiful wood carving of Sequoyah. Sequoyah managed to get a hold of an old school press writer. There's probably a different word for it. It's where they would print the lettering, the words upon paper. Now, in order to be more cost efficient, Sequoyah and the men he worked with, they went with symbols, things that already existed, and they used it to their advantage. So that's a reason why some letters within the Cherokee syllabary look very similar to English. They were trying to save some money. Fun fact. So you guys, before we go any further, there is a really amazing video that is back here. Now, I was informed I cannot film the video, but that's okay because there's still a lot of amazing artifacts here. Oh my goodness, you guys. That video was incredible. What it was an introduction into Sequoyah and his history and his contributions to the Cherokee Nation. And one of the big things that it expressed highly on was how you have the founding fathers in the Capitol, their statues, and Rosa Parks, and I can't think of the others, but in the main center, it shows Sequoyah's statue that is in Capitol Hill. That is amazing. Now, this sign kind of talks a little bit about Sequoyah's world. You see, Sequoyah's mother was named Warta. Warta was from a very prominent Cherokee family, which, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they were a part of the Paint Clan. Now, Sequoyah's father, Nathaniel Gist, he was a colonist, he was a fur trader, and it was this love of how Sequoyah was born. In this area that is now the Cherokee Overhill, present day East Tennessee, Cherokee and their ancestors had lived in this area for about 12,000 years. And in this 12,000 years, they left behind a lot of very interesting artifacts. That stone thrower, that spear thrower, that is from the Archaic period. These spears, they are from the Paleo-Indian period. Kind of like your nomads, I guess you would say. Then we had the Woodland period, which was about 1,000 to 3,000 years ago. And I have seen artifacts like that before in an old Indian rock house that was very close to my stepfather's property. So that's what they were. And then you have the Mississippian period. A lot of that shell, chert. This is when they began to become more advanced. And by this time, by the 1600s, Cherokee were living in this area. They built towns along the Little Tennessee River, which is this right here. Now in 1762, there were about 3,000 Cherokee in this area. That year, a British lieutenant named Henry Timberlake drew a map that you see to the right. And I know in a previous vlog, you guys, we did talk about Henry Timberlake. Now we have a few more examples of archaeological facts found in this area. That is a Cherokee bowl that was found in this area, in Ocala as well. Now that's a chunky stone. Well, a chunky stone, if y'all didn't know, what they would do, the Cherokee, is they would throw that stone, and then they would throw the spears to try to hit it. I know a lot of Cherokee children would play it as well, to really gain their skills as a hunter. And that is an artifact found from the Tellico Blockhouse. In the link below, I will show you all what the Tellico Blockhouse is. This is just a few of the artifacts that were found in that area. Kind of hard to believe. I did not realize that they found these kind of utensils. And you have an iron wedge. And you got the a brass kettle lug, kind of like that go on a brass kettle, iron scissors, and beads. Now, glass trade beads, For a lot of the Cherokee, this was a way of paying for goods and services. Now, in present day, Koala or Snowbird or one of the Oklahoma bands of the Cherokee Nation, they have these very elaborate pieces of artwork made from the beads, and they are very, very expensive. And now this kind of shows the winding early road of when Sequoyah was born, which, by the way, he was born in 1776. Now there are some more, well, the reason why this is here is because Sequoyah, was a blacksmith and silversmith. And this kind of is also how he learned to write English. I'm wondering if that's anything that he made. Probably not, but you never know. But in 1809, that is when Sequoyah begins to work on his story. And then, actually, I did not know that. Sequoyah joined the U.S. Army. I did not know that. That was in 1813. But in his second enlistment, Sequoyah fought in the Battle of Horseshoe Bend. Almost 1,000 Cherokee were killed. 18 Cherokees died as well. Creeks. And if I'm not mistaken, this is a diorama of Sequoyah building what looks to be a small wood hut. Again, this is kind of an example of when Sequoyah was working on the talking leaf. You see many from his village, they mocked him for the belief that he could do a writing system in their language. Now, later on, this would almost cost Sequoyah his life. You see, there was a great drought in this village that he lived in, and what was happening is that all the crops were dying. Now, around that time, people would talk, and they thought, well, there might be some witchcraft here at work. But the Cherokee believed a lot of it had to do with Sequoyah and his talking leaf. So the chief of the village, he sent for Sequoyah, and I told Sequoyah that he would have him executed if this was found out to be witchcraft that he was doing. So what they did is they sent Sequoyah's daughter to another nearby village about 3 miles away. By the way, Sequoyah's daughter was about the only other person at the time that could read Cherokee or read within the Cherokee syllabary. But what happened? Sequoyah writes a letter to his daughter. It is sent to the next village over, and the Cherokees witness something incredible. His daughter reads the language that Sequoyah had written upon paper. And almost overnight, Sequoyah's advent of the Cherokee syllabary was known to almost the entire nation. So here we go. Looks like we have a few more artifacts that were found. Looks like this cannonball, looks like that came from, I'm guessing it's probably from, actually, I'm not even sure. We have a lot of mortar, a lot of guns. I think maybe this was, actually, I didn't know that. Apparently, Sequoyah fought alongside Davy Crockett and Sam Houston. And this is another diorama or reconstruction. I think that's a reconstruction of Sequoyah as well. I believe this goes on throughout his life. Looks like, I guess these may have been artifacts from the Battle of Horseshoe Bend, possibly. And looks like there is another show. Again, I am floored by this presentation. What this presentation was based on is, you see, very much like I had already kind of talked about, Sequoyah and his daughter Ioga. Well, Sequoyah, as he would work and write on this system, he would struggle with it. It would frustrate him. Days would turn into weeks, which would turn into months and become years. Until his daughter, Ioga, started helping him. You see, at one point, Sequoyah's wife got so fed up with him that she threw about 5 years' worth of work into the fireplace, and it burned. So that is what this presentation, this video talks about. It's really, really awesome. They use shadows to describe Sequoyah and Ioga, his frustrations. This is really good. I like that. Again, this display kind of talks about what furthered Sequoyah's interest. You see, after Sequoyah's involvement in the Battle of Horseshoe Bend, he came home to find that his entire house had been ransacked. Now, it was at this point that he realized that he could not trust Americans. He could not trust the United States government. So, he, his wife, his children, they moved, and that is what furthered his interest in creating a syllabary or a writing system that was not relied upon by English or English writing. And this is something I remember from the days when I was an intern here at the Sequoyah Birthplace Museum. This is a walking stick, well, better known as the talking stick, by Ross Everhart. But it has all 83 symbols of the Cherokee syllabary inscribed on it. In the summer of 2016, I interned here. And this is where I got to learn as much as I did about the Cherokee people and Sequoyah. And as we're walking, you can clearly see in the lights, it is the Cherokee syllabary that leads up to an old printing press. But this is what started, well, what I was talking about earlier. You see, this printing press is around the same time period, the same model that Sequoyah would have owned or worked in, or worked on, I should say. And if I'm not mistaken, this printing press came from up north, and it cost about 15, well, we're not going to get on that. But anyway, I remember when that was purchased. It sat in a storage room. But this also talks about the Cherokee Phoenix. The Cherokee Phoenix, if anyone did not know, this was the first, well, newspaper in America that was written in both Cherokee and in English. It was a bilingual newspaper. And it looks like that kind of talks about other pieces that were written with the syllabary. There's a little bit right there. By the way, here are some more examples. This is a letter by Charles Thompson, Principal Chiefs of the Cherokee Nation. Looks like the real one is in Gilcrease, or in the Gilcrease Museum. And this is another one, account of Sequoyah's life by Major George Lowry. And for whatever reason, I feel like this one does look original, although it is not. Now from here, this kind of tells Sequoyah's history some more. But in 1821, that is when Sequoyah will finish the syllabary. Looks like that's a dipper. The Cherokee National Council wanted to honor Sequoyah. They paid an artist to make a medal for him. It was silver, and so was Sequoyah's face. The medal was given. Huh. Interesting. But this kind of talks some more. Sequoyah Surveyor's Compass. Kind of looks like, looks like this kind of tells more of how Sequoyah taught. Cherokee National wanted more of the people to learn and read. So that's kind of Sequoyah showing his advent of the Cherokee syllabary. Let's see. And apparently that was a silver medal Sequoyah received, or an artist concept of the real one. And that kind of goes on to the spread of how this idea absolutely shaped a nation. This last piece right here, this is the final journey. Now, this is where Sequoyah kind of moved out west. He knew that, that removal was more than likely imminent, and he wanted to go ahead and move while he could. And if I'm not mistaken, he passed away. They believe while Sequoyah was an old man at this point. Apparently the Cherokee had gone through Mexico, and his friend the Worm, along the way they ran low on food, their horses were stolen, but apparently they found a village of Mexican Cherokee. Now 7 of them returned, but in that time, that is when Sequoyah was found that he had finally passed away. And I think this is kind of a report. Yeah, that is a report on, on Sequoyah's passing. Now, one of the interesting things is that they say Sequoyah's burial site was lost to time. However, if you talk to a lot from the Cherokee tribes and a lot of historians, it sounds very much like they know where Sequoyah is buried. However, if it were truly known, the location, well, that would probably lead to a lot of legal paperwork and a lot of things that would probably mean that Sequoyah, his grave would be disturbed. And this is really, really cool. You see, when I was an intern at the Sequoyah Birthplace Museum back in 2016, they were talking about getting the gentleman who did a lot of the artistry stuff, like at the Harry Potter's, the Harry Potter ride, and, at Disney, those lifelike paintings. Well, this is the exact same guy who created this for the museum, and it is a picture of Sequoyah. That is, very, very interactive. And now here, I'll show this to you real quick. It's really neat.
Also, I am Sequoyah. At the beginning of your visit with us, you saw me as a Cherokee infant in my mother's arms.
That is so interesting.
You were led...
This place has changed so much, you guys. Now, in the comments below, let me know if you all had been here prior to the renovations, because this is a way more different version of the Sequoyah Birthplace Museum than I remember. The one that I worked at, way back when in 2016, it kind of just went over like the rest, kind of like general overview of the Cherokee and their involvement in Sequoyah. But this museum is now completely focused and dedicated to probably one of the most important men in the world, because Sequoyah was the one who, honestly, I feel like if he had not created the Cherokee syllabary, the Cherokee language would be lost like many other Native American languages. So, without further ado, we're going to check out some of these other buildings. And while we're here in this area, we are going to check out the Chota Monument and the Tonshi Monument. And I know this blacksmith shop has been around for quite a while. Actually, this If I'm not mistaken, this was built by Bill Landry. Or it was built by Charlie Rodomer and a few other guys. They erected it. And again, why this is so important, this blacksmith shop, or blacksmith shop being on the property to begin with, and that is because, well, Sequoyah started out as a blacksmith and silversmith, and most likely he probably learned his craft at the Tellico blockhouse. But a few summers ago, I worked behind those gates, and I did pretty good. I'm kind of glad Charlie trusted me with hot metal. By the way, that is a 19th century bellows, heating bellows, built exactly from scratch from old blueprints from the time. And this right here is a it's either 20th century or 19th century dog trot cabin. I forgot where it came from, but these are poplar logs. Anyway, I think that's so interesting. I remember these. This is what used to be in the museum. But this kind of talks about the general overview and the history of the Cherokee. And what they're playing right here, that's the Cherokee War Dance. So let's check out the other room. And really, to be honest, it hasn't changed all that much. Even when I was an intern here, I know that table was new. That hasn't been around. But there's one more thing that we have to see that's here at the museum. Something that is very sacred. This mound behind me, this very sacred site, this is a burial mound. You see, when the Little Tennessee River was flooded in 1979 by the Fort Loudon Dam, I think it was just the Loudon Dam. Well, this ancestral land was lost by the Cherokee. Thousands, about 12,000 years of history had been lost. Now, during that time, the remains of over 191 Cherokee were found in the Little Tennessee River Basin. They were brought, some were put in display at museums. Others, well, they sat in a storage room. And for many years, the Cherokee fought to get reparations made, to get these 191 individuals reburied. And when that came, this was the burial mound where all of them lay. And each one, if anyone doesn't know, these are the 7 clans of the Cherokee Nation: Blue Clan, Long Hair Clan, Wild Potato Clan, Paint Clan, Bird Clan, Deer Clan, and the Wolf Clan. And Sequoyah, he was part of the Paint Clan. Now, having seen that and paying my respects, let's go to these 2 other monuments that are in this area. After a few minutes of driving, we have made it to the first monument. This is the Tanasi Monument, or better known as Tonshi. See, that is the proper spelling of this old, ancient Cherokee village. Tanasi, Tonshi, or as everyone else knows it, as Tennessee. Because of this Cherokee village, by the way, even though the water is out for the season, it is still covered under about 5-10 feet of water. That was the Cherokee village. You see, Tonshi was one of the very first villages that Lieutenant Henry Timberlake found while down here in the Little Tennessee River Basin. You see, Tonshi, it was the Cherokee capital. And in this area, there were about 3,000 men and women and children living, breathing, thriving. Now the only thing left is a monument. An eternal flame surrounded by the 7 points, the 7 clans of the Cherokee Nation, as well as the marker where it once was, or at least near where it was. About 300 yards away was Tonshi, and it existed from 1721 to 1730, the origin of the name for the state of Tennessee. Now we are going to head to another very sacred spot to the Cherokee Nation, and that is the Chota Monument, which honestly, it's not that far down the road. Alrighty, you guys, right behind this bush here, beyond this gated fence, lies the Chota Monument. Now, why the Chota Monument is so important to the Cherokee Nation is that it was a major trading post for the colonists and the Cherokee of this area. You see, Tonshi existed for about 9 years as the capital of the Cherokee Nation, but then it was moved. It was moved because of, well, commerce and trade. Beyond this fencing right here, not fencing, beyond these pine trees is the Tonshi Monument. Honestly, it was back a little further than I thought it was. But these markers, they represent the pillars of the Cherokee Nation. And I should say, it's supposed to be the foundations to what a Cherokee meeting house was supposed to look like. Now, some of these Cherokee council houses could be very, very large. In fact, Lieutenant Henry Timberlake even described one of them, as looking to be like a small mountain. These things could be gigantic. And I was kind of wrong about what I just said there. Each pillar represents one of each clan, like the Paint Clan, the Wolf Clan. And I imagine probably the 8th one is the Great Seal of the Cherokee Nation. And there is a very special grave site. And that is the grave of Conestoga, the great warrior of the Cherokee. Born in 1710, died in 1783. You see, this great warrior, this warrior from the Wolf Clan, was the one who overthrew Fort Loudon. Fort Loudon is the state park that is right next to the Sequoyah Birthplace Museum. Yes, Conestoga was the great warrior. I'm not sure if he was a chief or not, but he starved the people of Fort Loudon out. He got them to leave, and then, well, there was a mysterious killing. of all those men and women that even present day, no one really knows what happened to those people. Just beyond this monument, this is where Chota once stood, now only covered by water. Alrighty, you guys, I believe that's gonna make my vlog for today. I visited a lot of places that brought back old memories, a lot of good old memories, and reminded me a lot of the history, a lot of sacrifices, a lot of historical woes, but a lot of great achievements. So you guys, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Always means a lot. Goes to show that y'all care and that y'all want to see more content. Remember, I love you all very much. Anchor down. Vlog over.